Hello, hello, hello. This is Gretch from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Joynson of Cheerleader PR. Caroline, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I wanted to read a little bit more about Caroline so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And Caroline is a PR strategist and the founder of Cheerleader PR. Caroline's mission is to empower passionate business owners to promote themselves with confidence, helping them to gain media coverage and PR so they can raise their profile, build relationships, and make more sales. With 20 years PR experience, Caroline offers PR coaching, courses, and consultancy, and she works with clients locally, nationally, and internationally, helping them to get clear on their message and share it alongside their unique story and, of course, their expertise. Caroline, are you ready to speak to the I Am CEO community?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's do it. So I wanted to kick everything off by rewinding the clock a little bit. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story? We'll let you get started with your business.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So, yeah, I've worked in PR for 20 years, which feels and sounds like a long time. But basically, I went straight into public relations straight out of university. I did a degree in business studies. And initially, when I went to the careers office and said I wanted to go into public relations, they said, oh, everyone wants to do that. It's very competitive, And I was like, well, right, I'm going to do it anyway. And I got my break into PR, working in a small agency, moved to a bigger agency. So we worked with loads of different clients, like really big clients, like the Football Association of England and the National Recycling Campaign. And the campaigns I love were things that really change perceptions and opinions, and that's something I've loved throughout my career, really. So I worked in agencies, then I went and worked in an organisation. I was a senior press officer at the National Media Museum, so responsible for their reputation and driving visitor numbers. And then when I was actually pregnant with my second daughter, I was made redundant from that role. And actually, it was the best thing that could have happened. You look back and it's kind of like a massive turning point, because I didn't really want to go back there. Having had my two daughters, it was not what I wanted to do. So I went freelance and I looked after the PR of various small businesses, all of whom were like passionate entrepreneurs. They were own and managed businesses who turned their passion into a business. And that's what I did for kind of the last 6 years. And then last year I launched Cheerleader PR, because I really felt that although I could go in and promote businesses and shout about all their good work, actually they need to be able to do that themselves for themselves. So as much as I can do that, and I would be their number one cheerleader, they don't keep the skills then. So Cheerleader PR is all about empowering them to promote themselves. Because often, although they know their business inside out, they feel apprehensive or nervous about actually telling people about their business, about their story, about their expertise. So I help them to do that through coaching and consultancy as well. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now. And yeah, as I say, I guess it's unusual maybe to have, the same career for all your life. But as I say, I've done it in different guises, really. And I've always enjoyed it. So I think I'm very lucky, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you might like it a little bit if you say you've been in it for 20 years or so.
No.
You're pretty making a pretty big imprint on everybody. But I love that. I love the name. I love that empowerment piece that you spoke to, because I think so many times, and I'm sure you run into this, you have really great entrepreneurs and business owners that create phenomenal products and services, but they might have that imposter syndrome. They may not feel like they should tell their story or feel uncomfortable in terms of doing that. So I love that not only are you able to do it, have you been able to do it, but you also help to kind of empower these phenomenal business owners that have created phenomenal things to be able to tell their story.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I can empathize with them, because having done everyone's PR for all that time, I never really had to promote myself. So I've gone on that journey myself, and I'm here on your fantastic podcast. And it's like, actually, unless you tell people what good stuff you're doing, they're not going to know. So it's kind of like you need to start going out there and putting yourself out there. And although that feels daunting, it's actually really rewarding. So it's, I can explain and show that through what I do myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times we are able to kind of get over those hurdles, not just for ourselves, but so that we're able to help out so many other people in doing that. And definitely sounds like that's happened for you as well. So I know I touched on it when I read your bio, and you did as well. Could you take us through exactly what you do and how you serve the clients that you work with?
Yeah, sure. I as I say, I work on in 3 different ways really. So the coaching side and the courses side are the newer side of the business. So that's actually sort of working with people and then upskilling them in PR. So I start off with like a 2-hour kind of strategy call to get really clear with people on their audience and their objectives, because PR is a very strategic kind of marketing tool, and it's best when it's linked to your business objectives. So you're actually clear on what you want to achieve, and then you can go out and find the people you want to work with and talk to them and build those relationships with them. So that's something I work with on those calls. But I also offer sort of a 12-week course or program, which is all about PRing yourself, and as I say, going through with individuals and upskilling them on PR and strategy, and getting them a plan in place that they can go and implement. But I also do people's PR for them still as a consultant. So if that's what they want to do, then that's still an option as well. And that, again, basically everything I do is kind of like a 6-stage cheerleader PR signature system. So it's whether I'm implementing it or they're implementing it, it's the same steps, because that's kind of how I would work with my clients. They can learn to do themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love, obviously, how you have the 6, steps of the system, but I love too how there's different kind of ways that you can connect and serve the clients that you work with. Because I think, as you said, sometimes people might be more the DIY kind of crowd, and they need that direction on how exactly to do that. But then there's, of course, the people that might, want to just have the expert like yourself be able to kind of handle their PR and do those things, and everybody in between that as well too, where I think you get so many different ways that you get to connect and serve and be of value.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the media landscape as it stands is just huge now. Before you could either advertise or you could get into editorial. And now, we're our own media outlet. You've got your own podcast, you can put it on YouTube, you've got your own social media to share your messages. And then it's the whole thing of trying to get other people to talk about you on their channels, which is where the PR comes in. Rather than just telling people you're good yourself, it's getting other people to endorse you. So it's kind of can be overwhelming, but it's making a plan of where are those people you want to influence and what channels are the best ones for you. So it's kind of helping them to navigate that really, and just get a plan they're comfortable with and confident with delivering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you kind of talk to it as well about it. Obviously you can do PR in a lot of different ways, but when you're able to do that alignment piece that you spoke to, where you have your business goals and you understand how you're able to make that connection, I believe, and I'm sure you probably would say the same thing, it takes it to an entirely different level.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at you with your, hundreds of podcast episodes, it's amazing. But, you set out a plan to go and do that for your business. And that's what people can do. It's just knowing how to do these things, really. And also, as I say, reaching out to other people and appearing on their channels as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very awesome world because there's so many different platforms that you can be on and try to get your name out there. So I love that you make those connections and empower people to be able to do that as well. So I wanted to ask you for what I call now your secret sauce. And this could be for yourself or your business or a combination of both. But what do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
I guess underneath everything I do is kind of a mantra of, treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. And PR is all about relationships and reputation. I think kind of that approach in life and in business, is going to help you, for one, just to be a nice person, but also to build relationships that are going to help you in your business and to help you with your reputation. So it kind of sounds fairly simple in some ways, but ultimately, it's something that I think can be missing sometimes in business, but it's just the simplest ideas are often the best, actually. So it's just, kind of living and breathing that mantra and just really starting with the basics, which is just, to be yourself and to treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. And I think that's at the heart of my mission, really, to empower people to become their own best cheerleader. And some of that's about kind of self-esteem and just believing what you're doing. And I think most of my clients, their work is their passion. They've turned their passion into a business. So it's just being able to go out there and build those relationships so that you can reach more people and make more of a difference, really. So I think that would be my secret sauce. It's not, I don't feel it's really secret, but it's kind of, natural, but equally it could be done more in business actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it may not be a secret, so to speak, but sadly, it's not widely executed on, and everybody's not living and breathing it. So I think it's a huge thing because, as you said, kind of like having that golden rule of treating people the way that you would want to be treated. I think that also, as you were kind of talking about these great entrepreneurs and business owners that are doing phenomenal things and being able to want to help out so many people, but sometimes not even helping themselves as much, and being and having that self-esteem to be able to say, you know, I've done X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to do X, Y, Z, or I created this. I think it ties into the golden rule as well too, because I think sometimes we use that perspective on being of service, of helping out people, but also forgetting to help ourselves as well too, and having that combination and how they go right in alignment with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's that thing of just helping yourself by helping others, but you got to remember to tell people about what you're doing as well. So I think it's kind of the whole piece really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to have one without the other. So I love that, that secret sauce. And so I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
So mine would be, it's actually a course by an entrepreneur that I work with, and she's a coach, but it's a lady called Marilyn, and it's called the Productivity Cure. And this was kind of my first entry, if you like, into online business and working with a coach and on an online program. And it's basically all about productivity and planning and goal setting. And it's about having the main way it kind of manifests itself is I have a weekly plan each week, and I plan out my week, whereas before it was just a bit like moving from to-do list to to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
So it was making it a lot more strategic, and also kind of time blocking in sort of buckets of time for different tasks. So that's probably my kind of hack that's the one. Every week I come back to that and just set out my week based on this system, and just try and make sure that I actually get stuff done that's working, on the business as well as in it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that so many times, I always say time is one of the most valuable resources that we have, and to be able to understand how to leverage that and to be effective and efficient, and to have, expertise from people that are able to do that and create courses and ways that we're able to kind of execute on that is huge, because I think sometimes we are like, we just need more hours, but I often say sometimes it's not the number of hours, it's how you manage it, how you leverage them. And when we're able to kind of do that optimally, that helps us to be more effective and efficient, helps us to do the things that we really, really hope to do, and the reason why we even started doing all these businesses and entrepreneurial ventures.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, that's the thing. You can be very busy just reacting and responding all the time without actually, proactively planning and saving some time to do something it's not going to give you the adrenaline of reacting straight away, but it's working on something longer term. And I think, especially my kind of work where you are replying to things and reacting to media requests and stuff, you have to be really careful you don't just get addicted to being busy and not actually, deliver on the bigger vision, really. So that has definitely helped. It's always a work in progress, but it definitely helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing I always say is just being aware of it, aware that it can be happening, it can be managed, maybe even better, and understanding how we ourselves are, what helps us go and what helps us kind of stay organized, and being aware of that within ourselves so that we can kind of manage that outwardly as well. So truly appreciate that hack. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. So that could be a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be around PR, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
Okay. Well, mine is basically about owning your story and expertise, because ultimately your story and your expertise is unique to you. So the things that have got you to where you are now in business and in life, the highs, the lows, what you've learnt, they are the things that connect you to other people, and people are interested in people. So those are the stories that can really help you to connect to your audience and just to build, better conversations and better relationships. And the same with expertise. We've all got our own unique expertise, which could be through life, it could be through qualifications, it could be through experience. But they're the things that you can, write about or blog about or, talk on a podcast about. And it's just having those things and listing them out and being proud of them and using them, because no one else has got the same combination of the story and expertise as you have. And I think in PR and in business, it's just such a massive benefit to do that and just own your own story, really. Be
Yeah.
proud of it.
Exactly. No, I think that's extremely powerful, and that empowerment part that you kind of spoke to with how you work with clients. I think I often say, like, so many times we forget when we peel back the onion of business that it's made up of people, and us people, we have stories, we have reasons why we do what we do. We have highs, we have lows. And I think that, as you said, if we kind of take away any of those aspects of our story of who we are, not only does it kind of tell half of a story or not tell a complete picture of us, I think it also takes away that connection piece that you spoke to, where you really get to see yourself in that person or see the ups and downs, the really phenomenal things we love about stories. Sometimes if we don't tell our story, it kind of takes us away from that.
Yeah, I think it's often overlooked. And also I think a lot of us that don't like to tell our own stories or blow our own trumpet because people think we're showing off. But actually, that's not the case at all. You know, you're showing that you're good at something. You know, you're not just telling them, you're showing them as well. And so I think we, as I say, if we could be proud of it and share it, we're going to help more people. So I think if you think of it as helping people, often that can get over that barrier of feeling like, oh, people think I'm showing off. I mean, especially in the UK, people are very, very nervous about looking like they're showing off. It's kind of like a bad thing to do. And it's like, no, because no one's going to know if you don't tell them. So it's a bit of a mindset thing, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And it's so funny because I even worked through that myself, where so many times I have to remind myself of why you're doing exactly what you're doing, why you're doing your product or service. And as you said, it's to be of service. And I think sometimes when you don't kind of, play the trumpet or talk about how great you are, I think you're sometimes depriving your products and services, the things you do for the people and the reason why you're doing that. So it kind of helps you to reframe, change that mindset as you talked about, to make sure that you're trying to tell as many people as possible because you want to be to service as many people as possible.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge mindset thing. And then once you get over that and you can use your story and your expertise for good, then, you know, it becomes a lot easier. And I think you'll get used to doing it then, rather than feeling like it's a bit of an alien concept.
Absolutely. It's like kind of like a muscle, so to speak. So I love that, you shared that as a nugget. And so now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Caroline, what does being a CEO mean to you?
I think for me, being a CEO means being master of your own destiny. Because, you know, I've been employed by other people, you know, in my career. And whilst that's been great, you know, as a business owner now, I'm the CEO of my own business. It's kind of like chance to do business how I want to do it. I know when I first went freelance sort of 6 years ago, you know, I've always done everything from, you know, writing the press releases to sending them out to doing the strategy. And it's just nice to go back to being able to do every level and happy to do every level. And also, because I know it's for my own, you know, it's for my own business. It's not for someone else's business. So I think definitely being in charge of my own destiny is what a CEO means to me, and just being able to do business how I want to do it without answering to anyone else. So, I mean, I know when I, you know, first had my eldest daughter, and, you know, I was having to ask if I could take her to a hospital appointment or, you know, a school play. And I suppose that's the other side of it actually for me, is having that freedom and flexibility to do what is important to me, which is my business, but also my life as well. So makes a massive difference to me, having that choice, really.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful. And I often say, I feel like, when you really think about like the words CEO or entrepreneur and business owner or whatever titles we might have, is that we kind of feel like we're with a paintbrush and you get to paint the vision, the world on how you want it to be painted, the master of your own destiny. And I think, as you said, whether that be I want to work with this client or I don't want to work with this client, or I want to provide this service, or sometimes on an even deeper level where you want to be able to go to a school play, or you want to be able to take your son or daughter to the hospital, whatever that might be, you have that opportunity to do that because you have that paintbrush and you're able to kind of paint that picture and see the world as you want to see it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who have got their own business, and I love the fact that, you know, I don't think as business owners we think of ourselves always as a CEO, like compared to a big, you know, massive corporation, but we actually are, because, you know, we are in charge of it. And as much as we, you know, we're often on our own in the business, and that has its own challenges of just trying to motivate yourself and keep yourself on track. It just opens up this whole level of flexibility. And I think also and being able to learn, like, you know, there's things that you just have to adapt to and adjust to, and, you know, get coaching or support or courses that you need along the way, but you don't have a manager, you know, on your shoulder. You are your own manager, so it's up to you, and the buck stops with you. So I think it's exciting. It can be challenging, but it is definitely exciting to be the CEO of your own business and see yourself in that way, and not as an employee anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it definitely can be a challenge, as you said, but I think it's important to kind of understand, again, why you do everything that you do, and to be able to have that flexibility that you kind of spoke to really be able to see that vision that we sometimes have, and we often have when we start our venture. So truly appreciate that definition. I appreciate your time even more. What I wanted to do was pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out all the awesome things that you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as opposed to anything else, I guess, as much as I say about owning your story and your expertise, that, you know, in business and trying to promote yourself, it's always best to start with your target audience and your ideal customer. So who you're trying to reach, because if you don't know who they are, it's very hard to reach them. So that's kind of like a bonus tip, if you like, really. And yeah, it's just about, PR is all about being able to talk to the right people in the right place at the right time. And also to, as I say, build those relationships and build your reputation by other people saying you're good rather than just saying it yourself. So if you want to find out more about me and what I do and how PR could work for you, then there's a few places you can find me. My website is cheerleaderpr.com, so come and have a look on there. I have a free Facebook group which is called PR for Passionate Go-Getters, and I give loads of PR advice and tips in there, and there's a very supportive communities of other, you know, passionate business owners. And then on Instagram, I am at cheerleader_PR. So they're probably the three places I hang out the most. So, you know, come and see me over there if you want to have a chat about PR and learn more about it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, Caroline. We will have the links and information in the show notes just so that everybody can follow up with you. But I truly appreciate that reminder. And again, that empowerment piece and how you're empowering so many entrepreneurs and business owners to be able to be the change, to be the impact they wish to see in the world. So I truly appreciate that. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you. You too, Gresh. Thanks a lot.
All right. And I'll cut it off here. Hello. Again, this is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and we had a phenomenal episode with Caroline Joynson of Cheerleader PR, and she has done really phenomenal work and has over 20 years of experience working with so many different aspects of PR, and her business really is all about empowerment. So what I wanted to do, Caroline, was just kind of hear a little bit more for those people that just might be listening to this about what you do and how you serve the clients that you work with.
Yeah, well, I work with passionate business owners to help them to get themselves out there and raise their profile, build better relationships, predominantly through helping them to get media coverage and other types of PR. So thinking about basically where you can go out and feature someone else's channel, rather than you telling people you're good at what you do, you're actually going to other people and they're endorsing you by talking about you or interviewing you or covering you. And it's just all about building that sort of credibility and getting the endorsement of the other people and getting in front of their audiences in a genuine way that you can help their audience to learn something, or, you know, an insight into your story or your expertise. So it's just about going out there and talking to other people's audiences in a educational way.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful. And I know we talked about that during the podcast about, you know, how so many times we have these videos or these YouTube channels or these podcasts, like there's so many different kind of microphones or ways that we can get our message out there. And I love, and I couldn't say it, so I had to write it down because I couldn't say it once, let alone 3 times fast. And you said something about having the right story in the right place at the right time. I think so many times we're not sure exactly about our stories or if we should tell our stories. Could you talk a little bit more about that phrase and what exactly that means for the people that might be listening to this?
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, PR as a definition, you know, can be quite long, you know, from the official bodies, you know, and associations behind PR, but that's how I define it. It's about getting the right story, you know, in the right place, the right time, and also to the right person as well. So it's kind of thinking about, people are interested in people. So, if you want somebody to cover you in their magazine or their newspaper or interview you or feature you, then you need to have something that's of interest to them and their readers or their viewers or their listeners. And stories are so powerful because as humans, we're looking for similarities, we're looking for differences, we're looking for things that surprise us or, cheer us up. So it's kind of looking at your story as a business owner, as an individual, and seeing where it could connect with your potential audience, your potential customers and clients. Because ultimately, when it's a business, you're doing it because you've got a business. It's kind of like you want to be seen in the places that are going to be attractive to your potential clients and customers. So there's a piece really about thinking about, for one, well, who are you trying to reach in terms of your ideal customers and clients? Because, if you just don't know who that is, then it makes it very hard to reach them and start telling them things and having conversations with them. So it's definitely about getting clear on your target audience, because then you'll know where they hang out, what age are they, what are they interested in, what do they do for a job, all those sorts of questions, right down to, well, what podcasts do they listen to, what radio stations do they listen to, what newspapers and magazines do they read. Because once you know that, then you can look at what those outlets cover in terms of stories and features and start to think about how you could fit into those places and get the chance to tell your story. So it's all very much wrapped up together, that although you're telling a story, it's strategic storytelling in the sense that you kind of want to reach your audience for it to have that benefit for your business, really.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful. And I think so many times that as entrepreneurs and business owners, and I work in marketing, so I think so many times that target market that you spoke to, of knowing where they spend their time, what exactly they're doing, is insanely huge. Because I think not only can it be extremely expensive to try to target everybody, but I think as you kind of talked about that story piece, when you really tell your story, you own your story, and all those different aspects as we talked about during your interview, you really get a different level of connection. It's not just, oh, I saw your story. It's really like, I saw myself in you. I connected with you. And when you do that, as you kind of talked about strategically, it really can do some phenomenal, work and opportunity for your business.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, when you very kindly invited me to come on this podcast, you didn't want me to just tell you about my business for the whole time. It was about how did I get to where I am, and what advice can I give? And that's exactly what I'd be advising my clients to think about. It's not just what you're trying to sell in your business and pushing that. It's not about that. It's about the stories around you in your business and how you can help people. And that just makes it into a totally different proposition, really.
Yeah, and it makes a totally different podcast episode. That's often what I said, and
Yeah.
why I try to lead with the question of, what's your story? Because I think, as you said, people, of course, we buy products and services, but the saying is, you buy from people like, and trust. And I think part of that knowing and liking and trusting is really be able to hear not just what you do, but why exactly you do what you do, what kind of gets your heart and your soul going. And I think when we're able to kind of, when you're able to help us figure out exactly how best we can do that, that's when we can take things to an entirely different level.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, definitely. And that's the thing of just, thinking about it more as a conversation than as a broadcast, as in a one-way broadcast. It's it's just building that rapport and that relationship, and just being able to say why you do what you do, really. And it's just really, really powerful. The other aspect is also in terms of timing, thinking about the deadlines of people that media that you might be working with, or podcasters. It's like, when is your story relevant to people? Is it seasonal? Is it linked to wider dates on the calendar? So adding that element in. Some things aren't time, dependent. It can be any time, but other things, it's like, well, when are good times to talk about things? When are people looking for those sorts of stories around those sorts of times? So I think adding those three things together, it just gives you a really powerful opportunity to link everything together and go out and talk to people, really, and start to build those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you said the kind of the change from the one-way kind of perspective, where sometimes when we have our story, or even now, through marketing on channels, you basically broadcast a message and you say you're doing X, Y, and Z, or whatever that might be. And there's that no longer one-way communication. It's that back and forth. It's that engagement, that conversation that you kind of spoke to. And I think when you're able to kind of, change that mindset or understand the way in which, those things can work for you and can support everything that you're doing, I think, again, you have some phenomenal opportunity for results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think it's just like looking up from what you're doing, what you're putting out, and just looking up to see, well, who could I engage with? Who is going to add to my conversation, really, because it gives you content, to use as an individual when you're actually engaging with other people, but then you reach more people through them too. So it's a win-win, really. And the other thing is, compared to advertising, for example, the PR is free. You're paying with your time and your effort, but you're not paying for space. So it's actually trusted a lot more as well, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of this earned media. Is that the correct phrase of when you get the opportunity? Yeah, because you've done something and you get that opportunity.
Earning the opportunity, you're there on merit. So, it's win-win, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, we talked about the know, like, and trust, that trust aspect, because again, you've earned the opportunity to be in that publication, on that podcast, on that YouTube channel, whatever that might be. Is something that people definitely will respect, and of course builds that trust, and hopefully helps out with that the bottom line as well too, which I'm sure everybody's always thinking about too. So Caroline, truly appreciate that. What I want to do is just pass you the mic one more time, just see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and listeners know, and of course how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Yeah, sure. I think it's about looking at your own individual unique story and expertise, and being confident that you have got a unique story and you've got unique expertise, and people need to hear about them, and in order so that you can help them. So I think it's about just adjusting your mindset in that way, and just being proud of your own story, because that is the foundation of PR, about making relationships with your public. So that's probably something just to add. And yeah, in terms of finding me and finding out more about what I do, there are 3 kind of places you can find me. One is my website, which is cheerleaderpr.com. And I do offer kind of free 30-minute calls about PR and how it can help you in your business. The other way is I have a Facebook group called PR for Passionate Go-Getters, because that's the people that I work with. So you can find that on Facebook. And I'm also on Instagram as cheerleader_PR. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Caroline. We will have the links and information in the show notes just to make it even easier. But I definitely appreciate the reminder. That was one of the most powerful things that I think came across, during our interview as well, too, is like when we understand that we're being of service by telling our story, by getting our name out there, we're only empowering what and why we created what we created, to be of service to even more people. So please, reach out to Caroline, tell your story, do your best work, and so that the overall world can benefit. So I appreciate that again, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks so much. You too.
All right, and I'll cut it off.